Harrison Price for Wednesday, March 18th, 2026, for a presentation of Bet365. Hockey fans, check out the Bet365 3-goal early payout. When your team goes up 3, you get paid. It's that simple. Download the app today. Must be 19 plus. Please play responsibly. We're coming to you from the Pacific Toyota Dealer Studio here at the historic Wall Center. Visit shoptoyota.ca. Visit your local Pacific Toyota dealer today. Matt Sakaris here, Blake Price remotely, Mike Rogerson hitting switches and conducting things. How are you?
I like having a tone change, in the discourse around this Vancouver Canucks team. And we have a unique show today in that regard. Not because, Matt, as you know, I think we're both very proud of the fact that we call things as they are. We deal with shows as we are given particular info, but they're giving us different info today, which is a breath of fresh air. Thank you very much.
J-Pat's signature line is, we work with the material provided by the club. And too often over the last, really 12 to 13 years, the material provided by the club has not been great and very similar. And look, it may well just be a blip. I was considering a poll question today, Elias Pettersson breakthrough or break out. They are different, right? One can break out without breaking through. But yeah, it was awesome to hear the Let's Go Petey chants and to have a different vibe around number 40 last night at Rogers Arena. So let's get to the daily poll question, asking you, do these final 16 games, inclusive of last night, matter to Elias Pettersson's trade value? You can vote yes, you can vote no, you can vote don't trade him. Do so at the Harrison Price X and YouTube channels. And Blake, if not for a 2-goal game last night, I don't think don't trade him would be getting 20% of the early voting here. But sure enough, it is, and I think that's because there are people who want Elias to succeed, even if I think there are principally more people who just want the Elias Pettersson chapter as a Canuck to conclude.
We don't cheer for teams. We do cheer for storylines in our business here, Matt, and I can't help. I will plead guilty to dreaming of what a fabulous finish for Elias Pettersson would do for our content, in that we have this debate that we're asking today becomes off the hook after the final game of the season if this has been a prolonged streak of good play from Elias Pettersson, because people will then have to deal with, is he back like we should hold on to him back, or is he back in that we should trade him right now back? And we're right now in the very early stages of that debate. It would get feverish the longer that this goes. I think right now you have to just vote yes. I think the option of don't trade him needs a lot more fleshed out, a lot more evidence on the table. So right now, work with what you can definitively say is a Luke to medium warm finish. Absolutely gives people a little bit more confidence in trading for him, because what they have seen is a culture change here. I think the semblance of a culture change. I think unequivocally I have to say there's been some level of culture change. A lot of the biggest voices in the room have left the room. And so an acquiring team is going to look at that and say, well, we're a completely different culture for him. And we've got our captain, and we've got so-and-so. And so he comes in here and just needs to be a hockey player. He'll work for us. They just need to be given a little more. So my answer is yes for now, but I think, the longer this goes, I could be tempted to get down to don't trade.
Yeah, and we want to hear from you. We're going to try and incorporate more and more of your voices, particularly those of you in the YouTube chat. So if you're in the YouTube chat and you have a thought on all of this, that super chat button is always available to you. Half proceeds to the BC Mental Health Foundation. Hit it, make your donation, and we'll incorporate you into the show. Mike and Blake going to take a look and see what you all are talking about there. I'm with you on several fronts here, partner. Don't trade him is not yet an option for me. But I voted yes as well. And this question came about because we talked to John Shannon earlier in the week, and he said, I'm not sure the final, I think it was 17 games at that point, are going to matter here because it's been 2 years of struggles. And I get that. Even if he goes on a 16-game heater, it's a small sample size in comparison to what we've seen over 2 years of play. It's not a full 160 games, but it's 130, 140 anyways. So, but I voted yes because, look, it's a skilled center with defensive chops. In a marketplace in June where you theoretically have 31 contenders, many of them awash in cap space because, of course, the cap is jumping significantly year to year, I would think that a strong final 16 games from Elias Pettersson would make some sort of impression on one of those 31 general managers. So I voted yes. I can understand votes for all three options here. And I wanted to got a couple of tweets here that I wanted to get to, just painting the road and how we got to here for a moment. And this was from earlier in the week before the breakout game. And we've mentioned this line of thought several times when discussing where Pettersson stands with Canucks fans these days. And I'm not picking on Conte here. He's a good member of Canucks social media. But earlier in the week, he tweets, the page from the last era of the Canucks can't turn until EP40 is moved. There are barely any defenders left. And the few that are have to be related to him. Everyone else is exhausted of waiting for a resurgence that probably isn't coming in Vancouver. I thought that was a letter perfect assessment of where we were with Elias Pettersson. We have heard a lot of we'll go to this one. There are still non-believers after last night's game. Pettersson could score 5 goals tonight and look amazing. It literally does not matter. He just went 20 games without a goal. He finally has a good game. We're supposed to be happy, optimistic. This has literally been his pattern for 2 years now. Stop falling for it.
Completely fair.
Completely understand that as well. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah.
Let's hear from
it was in a win, and it was also doing something so simple, so repeatable. Like if he scored off the wing and on a rush chance, yeah, I'd be like, okay, the defensive system broke down somewhere down the line. It was an odd man rush. Okay, but he's not very fast. Like that's not his. Like what he did last night is eminently repeatable.
Yes.
It's standing in the faceoff circle and shooting. So we're not asking him to reinvent the wheel here. So both of those texts are great, astute, and they are very defendable. But I think you can also defend that last night is repeatable.
I think you're right. And you were traveling yesterday and you missed Cam Robinson, and we asked Cam about Petey. And he said, I'm almost at the point with him where I'm at with my 10-year-old driving to the rink. We discuss micro goals. Small, easy, achievable goals you want to have happen tonight.
Yeah.
And shooting the puck from the face-off circle on the power play for an NHL play, a micro goal, right? Just get a couple of good rips on net from that spot. Sure enough, from Cam's lips to Elias's ears and body, let's hear from Adam Foote, his head coach, on how Elias has been owning his struggles through this last poor quarter of the season.
I don't know where it happened or how it happened, but he just recognized, I don't think it's about necessarily his skill set or things like that. I think he's just working on his work ethic. He comes out early. He goes on the bike after games. He's changed his whole mindset. He's been doing it for 4 to 6 weeks now, and I think it's nice to see him not get too frustrated. I probably was frustrated inside, but he's on early. He's he does what he probably should do, what a pro should do, but he's taken another step, and he's owned some of what's gone on, and a lot of it too is there's been a lot going on this year. And so it's just nice to see him mature that way. And hopefully he'll keep doing it that way, and you'll see more. But you can definitely see when he got that goal that he played with a lot more energy.
And that is the second time this week, Blake, that Coach Foote has mentioned being out early before practice and riding the bike after the game. So there you go. Some micro goals and some production from Elias Pettersson.
We were talking about culture change. We were talking about culture change as maybe a catalyst. I mean, do we draw a through line there, Matt, from his preparations just better? Hence, he's getting better. Like, it's the first time we've really heard of, him being lauded for his
repeatedly
around the rink activities.
Yep.
So,
do these final 16 games matter to Pettersson's trade value? Vote yes, vote no, vote don't trade him at the Sekerson Price X and YouTube channels. Let's get to our top story, brought to you by Yellow Dog Brewing, Neighborhood Brewing, Foolish Winery. Hallelujah. A song best remembered at BC Place during the 2010 opening ceremonies, but if Leonard Cohen or Katie Lang was playing in your head last night at Rogers Arena, there's good reason. Elias Pettersson, 2 goals, finally. The face of the Canucks bumps a 20-game goalless drought with a pair of first-period markers, 5-2 win over the two-time defending reigning Stanley Cup champions from Florida. His first 2 goals since January 13th and his first power play goal since November 20th versus Dallas. And his second goal in the night was his 200th in the National Hockey League. He finishes with 4 shots on goal on 8 attempts. Let's hear from Elias about shooting more.
No, it definitely helps to shoot more when goals go in, but if I feel like I have a good shot, I'll try to take it.
He didn't seemingly want to celebrate at the same further that everybody else was celebrating. You got to play it cool.
Well,
right?
I think he also was trying not to give people credit's the wrong word, maybe. Like, I'm not going to buy into your narrative that I haven't been shooting enough. He's still, I don't think,
even though he hasn't been shooting enough, like
the
stats are there. We know he hasn't been shooting enough, but
he has admitted to it at times. I don't think last night he was in the mood to say, yeah, you guys were right. That's why I scored. And to be fair, like the one blast was clearly a blast. The other one found its way through. But as Wyatt was pointing out in the stand sheets last night too, it's like, but that's why we've been asking you to shoot a ton, because sometimes that happens. And when you go to a volume shooter, the best goal scorers in the league are volume shooters, is what we call them. And they do that because they know that. They know that shit'll happen in front of the net and it'll find its way in.
And it's not just all of us, though, Blake. Besser postgame, quote, we need him to do that. We need him to let that bomb go. Even if he hurts a guy, that's fine. Like, you've got your teammates saying, even if one of us suffers injury, we want to see this, Elias. So,
and I'm glad he brought that up, Matt. And I had never heard that theorized with him, but we have with other people. Sammy Salo admitted, and other teammates admitted, he was reticent to shoot for fear that he was going to hurt somebody. Now, he had a bigger slap shot than what Elias Pettersson has with a wrist shot, but maybe the same mentality. I've never heard that brought up, and I wonder if there's any truth or knowledge in there from Besser that Pettersson has been worried about injury in shooting the puck. I hope that's not the case.
And let's remember, this was once a player who looked like he was going to take a run at club record books. His 200th career goal, as mentioned, in game 530, he took the 4th fewest games in franchise history to reach 200 goals. The only guys who hit the mark in fewer games were Pavel Bure, Tony Tanney, and Marcus Naslund. I mean, we know the struggles the Sedins had at the beginning of their career, but Blake, that's a who's who of Canucks goal scoring minus Daniel Sedin that he's hanging with.
And imagine if the last couple of seasons were, I mean, it's not crazy to say he could have doubled his totals from the last couple of seasons.
Easily. The way he was playing earlier in his career, for sure. I mean, yeah.
45 goal seasons this year and last, like that was on the table. That was doable.
Oh, not even.
So he would have been even faster to the mark.
Yeah. I mean, it was 15 goals last year. He was 34 the year before, but a ton of that damage was done early in the season. It was the second half when the struggles really took hold. But yeah, Blake, it is 30 goals in 123 games over the last 2 years. It could easily be 60 over 100. Mm-hmm. He was that sort of player once upon a time. Okay, let's hear more from Foote on number 40 feeling it last night.
Well, he's been working at it. I mean, sometimes you get caught in a little bit of a slump or a rut, and you could tell his energy. And the next couple shifts after he got that goal, how he was, you just see it. You could see it. It was a little bit more pace, and then he had like he wanted to shoot. And, it was nice. It was nice to see.
Sure was, Coach. And Pettersson, not the only good news story from that game. We have got to talk about Marco Rossi, who was every bit important, perhaps more important in the long-term big picture, as he continues his sizzling play with a 3-point night, a goal and 2 assists, centering that bro line with Brock Boeser and Liam Öhgren. Rossi has 10 points in his last 7 games. He has been a catalyst there. Boeser added 3 helpers last night. He is up to 9 points in his last 7 games. I told you not long ago, Blake, I thought Boeser needed to have a sensational close to the season to have any kind of trade interest in the summer, and he is absolutely delivering. But it's been Rossi, and it is an exceedingly important piece for the Vancouver Canucks' future, because he is young enough to still be in his prime on the other side of the rebuild, however long that takes. And, of course, he is, if not the centerpiece, the co-centerpiece of the Quinn Hughes trade alongside Zeev Buium. A word or two on Rossi.
Well, Rossi, unlike Buium, has proven it. Like, Rossi, is a very good NHL player. Buium has the promise of that. And yeah, he might potentially have higher upside, a higher ceiling, comparatively speaking, because they play different positions, but he could usurp Rossi as the bigger piece, but we're going to have to see it before you know that. Rossi's done it. And for those that were that worried about how he debuted as a Vancouver Canuck in his first 20 games or so, or 10 games or so, he's now on a 58-point pace for the season when you combine the Wild totals and the Canucks totals, which are now almost in lockstep. It's basically the same rate, both in a Wild uniform and in a Canucks uniform for the games played this season. So super important, and you got the feeling in both his words and now in his actions, he was not embarrassed maybe, but he wanted to show Canucks fans, no, this is not really who I am. Like I'm better than this. And he seems to have been playing with that sort of a purpose of, I got to show these people what I can do here. And now he's able to back that up because of health and all that sort of thing. So it's huge news for the Vancouver Canucks, because otherwise that Hughes trade looks terrible.
It's 12 points in 18 games as a Canuck. It was 13 in 17 games as a Minnesota Wild. Let's remember, he was 24 goals, 60 points, and a full 82 last year with the Wild. And he was 20 goals the year before, too, as just a 40-point scorer. His scoring took a 20-point jump. So, no, this has got to be, I mean, as big as the Elias Pettersson sigh of relief was last night, I think if you're Rutherford or Alvin and the constructors of that trade, your sigh of relief was probably just as big here over the last couple weeks with Marco Rossi being on the heater that he is. Also felt good for Kevin Lankinen last night. And remember, he took leave of the club to deal with a family matter earlier this season. Still don't have any details on that family matter, but told it was not an itty-bitty one. He picks up his first victory since January 21st versus Washington. He finally ties Thatcher Demko with his eighth victory of the season. That's the club lead. Jeff was saying yesterday, Blake, it's theoretical they don't get a goaltender to 10 wins this year. Well, Lankinen is now 2 away. I know he had been winless in 7 starts, the poor guy. Seems like when he played well, the team in front of him didn't. And when he played poorly, he was subject to some big margins. Anyways, you got to feel good for Kevin Lankinen, and he's been a good soldier here.
Yeah, it's and even the save percentage is starting to creep up just a little bit. He's got a long way to go. I'm not saying it's a good save percentage now, but at least it's headed in the right direction. And you have to believe too that the team playing well. Like, imagine the pressure that Vancouver Canucks goalies have felt all season long, Matt, where they know that as soon as the third goal goes in, the game is over. The team had no ability to score 3 goals. Well, they showed an ability last night, and maybe this is the start of an ability, and maybe this team is still going to surrender 2 to 3 goals per night for the most part, right? So the goalies need to believe that the team in front of them can score at least that, and they still have to prove it. It was just one night, but they're 3-2-1. So there is some traction in the Vancouver Canucks here in the last 6 games.
Drew O'Connor matches his career high with his 16th goal of the season. He's been quite good for the Canucks. And the addition by subtraction theory, the something feels different line we've heard from the Canucks since trade deadline, it seems there is a fresh start here now, that the pressure is off, culture change being a phrase that we've heard a lot. And Brock Besser was hearkening that in the postgame as well. We got the clip here. We got the Rob Williams post here visually for those of you to read it. We talk about holding each other accountable and setting the new culture with the new guys and the young guys, making sure everyone's putting in the work. And that starts now. So you got Besser talking about new culture, Blake. And the only line to draw there, I think, is the addition by subtraction.
Yeah, it's looking more and more like a puke and rally. You got all the toxins out of the system here, and now the Canucks can get back at it and start anew. And it's pretty honest for a veteran that was part of the leadership group originally. Like, he wasn't maybe top 2 or 3 necessarily, Besser's voice, but he was still part of that group. He was in with Miller and Quinn Hughes and all that sort of thing. So for him to put that out there so quickly leads you to believe he knows that a reset was somehow needed. And we'll see how that affects his want to be here. Remember, he needs to waive any trade in the summer if the Canucks still want to pursue that. But it sounds like he does still want to remain here for sure. And he knows the path to getting better here for the Vancouver Canucks.
All right, let's get to the YouTube chat, and let's bring this up. It's from Jax1580, who says, we'll never get a good return for him this summer. Keep him for the start of next season at least. As others have said, he might really pop off with McKenna or with
This
Stenberg.
is Petey, not Besser. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Sorry, we're talking about Pettersson. Yes, my bad. Transitioning back to Elias Pettersson, who we put the call out for those of you in the YouTube chat. What do you think, Blake? It won't get a good enough return in the summer, and that value could rise next season if playing with McKenna or Stenberg.
Yeah, Meows on YouTube also said this. He had no trade value, all caps no. We don't need cap space while uncompetitive. The best bet is to keep him and hope he finds his game again. There is 0 win in trading him. And both of these underscore the fact, Matt, they're coming from such a deficit with Pettersson's value. Remember, if there was going to be a trade at the deadline, it was going to be a Canucks hold on to money for the next 6 years and receive very little in return. So there's a long way to go to the Canucks getting 3 years ago value for Elias Pettersson. And you don't necessarily need to wait that long to pull the trigger on the trade, but you need to fill up the tank past we're going to hold on to money for the next 6 years. They need to build up that value again, and then maybe get a little bit beyond that to where you get fair value for the player with no salary retained. That's a lot of work. I don't know when that happens. I don't know how much of a sample size you need, but I get that argument that you're better off hoping again. Yep. And there's been a lot of hope invested in this player. I realize that, folks.
Yep.
But I think you're still better off.
Yep. I've got time for that argument. I personally have hit wit's end with Elias. I personally do agree with those who are saying, look, for the Canucks to truly change culture, turn page from this massively disappointing era of hockey, I do think there needs to be an Elias trade. I've been a little bit more bullish on his trade value just because centermen of this ilk are so very rarely available via trade, particularly two-way centermen or potentially two-way centermen of this age. I've never been for retaining money on the contract, but I've certainly for taking bad money back, but only if it juices the return a little bit, only if you can make the case that it's a good hockey trade for the Canucks going forward. We'll see where that goes. Time to tell them about Yellow Dog, Blake. I told them about that cream ale yesterday while you were gone.
I'm gonna go away from the brew. I'm gonna go Yellow Dog Spirits. They've released a brand new lemon lime freezy vodka soda. The freezy series has been a big one for them. It's a crowd pleaser. So if you've got warm weather parties in your brain, stock up on this right now. It's a cool, zesty blast of lemon and lime. Vodka soda, bringing bright, nostalgic, and it's just built for easy, carefree sipping. So if that sounds like your vibe, time to get on board with the lemon lime freezy vodka soda from Yellow Dog Spirits.
Okay, so we're going to get to a little bit of news here with regards to the controversy that erupted yesterday in hockey. Jack Hughes, the brother of Quinn Hughes, wants the golden puck. Well, the Hockey Hall of Fame has this morning denied his request for the golden goal puck, stating it was never his to own. The IIHF controls all Olympic artifacts. Many of us knew that. Jack Hughes apparently didn't. And notice I didn't say he wants the puck back because he never possessed the puck. He never owned the puck. This is simply an argument made on entitlement and whining. Jack Hughes told Greg Wyshynski that it was, quote, bullshit that the Hockey Hall of Fame has the golden puck, also the women's golden puck as well, saying I'm trying to get the puck. Like, that's bullshit that the Hockey Hall of Fame has it, in my opinion. Why would they have that puck? Dear God, what a question to ask. Why would they have that puck? Jack would go on to say that he wants it for his father, Jim, who's a big collector. Blake, I have not heard a single good word about Jim Hughes in all the years since Quinn Hughes came up as an NHL player. I have met countless people who know Jim Hughes, and most of them describe him as a humorless person who doesn't laugh, who doesn't smile, who doesn't put people at ease or mingle easily. Just an old hockey grump.
And he was a hard ass on these guys, too.
Was. Well, the puck went to the Hockey Hall of Fame in Toronto because that's the global shrine to the game. And you'd think that a family that spent time living in Toronto by the Hockey Hall of Fame would know that if they could see through this entitlement. The puck went to the Hockey Hall of Fame because it belongs to the IIHF, who put on the tournament on behalf of the IOC. Players own their sticks. They own their jerseys, being provided by their national hockey federations. They don't own the pucks or the nets or anything that tournament organizers provide, to answer Jack's question.
The one thing that hasn't gone said here yet, too, is it's not his accomplishment. The reason why players hold on to their 50th goal pucks and such, and their 200th goal pucks, like Petey probably kept that puck from last night. Do you know why? That's his accomplishment. The Canucks, by virtue of that goal, didn't win anything because of that goal. That's Petey's accomplishment. He gets to hold on to that puck because it's about him. Jack Hughes scoring the goal wasn't about him. If there's ever a team achievement, more teamy, it's when it's your national team. Not even your club team, but even if it was to win the Stanley Cup, again, not your achievement. It's a team achievement. And in this case, a national team, which is where I'll pivot and say, Matt, if the U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame wants to say to the Hockey Hall of Fame, guys, would you mind if we had that? That's such a huge moment for U.S. hockey. I'm prepared for a transfer of ownership.
Oh, for sure.
Regard.
I think absolutely the Hockey Hall of Fame would say, yes, we will loan it out to you for exhibit and maybe for a long, long time, right? I thought of that as well.
That's in a Hall of Fame. It's a team. It's not Jack's puck. It's not about him. It's about the accomplishment of the team, for God's sake.
But Blake, we're talking about Americans, and I'm sure there's an academic paper to be written here. But as you know, Canada and other Western democracies consider groups and collectives a little bit more than ourselves. The U.S., a very individually based society that concern themselves first with the end. This goes right down to individual versus collective rights, right? No, you're quite right. Like Blake, I was thinking of this in terms of the Joe Carter home run. The most famous home run in Major League Baseball history, hit in Ontario, celebrated in Cooperstown, New York, because the Baseball Hall of Fame and Museum curates the history of the game day to day for the millions of baseball fans around the world, many of whom make pilgrimages to Cooperstown, New York. The puck should be in a Hall of Fame, the Hockey Hall of Fame, or even, on exhibit loaned out to the U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame, so that others can celebrate it. So it's not just living in the private collection of Jack Hughes' father.
There's also a similar wrinkle to that. Like I think there's a real barrier here for U.S. hockey fans. They're like, wait, it's the biggest moment in our hockey history, and you're storing it in Canada. The Joe Carter thing is a great flip on that. That's the first time, or no, it isn't the first time, second time, but it's a Canadian World Series, a very rare occurrence, a Canadian World Series championship, won on Canadian soil, which is for the first time, and that's being stored south of the border. So you could make the same argument, but it's for the greater good of the game.
That's it.
There has to be one place. I mean, there should be a preeminent Hockey Hall of Fame. There should be a preeminent baseball. And it has to reside in one place, despite the fact that both of them are global games.
And the United States has the Baseball Hall in Cooperstown and the Basketball Hall in Springfield, Massachusetts, where the game was invented by the Scottish-Canadian Dr. James Naismith, and the Football Hall of Fame in Canton. And, of course, when it comes to the Hockey Hall of Fame, it could really only be in Toronto or Montreal because those are the biggest, most long-standing hockey markets in the country where the game matters most.
Yeah.
It's that simple. So, you read that story, or at least you read the headline, and then you click and you read Wyshynski's story, and Blake, he's making such a beef about this. He so desperately wants the puck. Surely he's made efforts to secure it, right? Oh, you get to the bottom of the story. Take a look at the quote. He hasn't found time to reach out yet to the Hall, but he will at some point.
He's going to complain about it first, and then
reach out
about it.
Yeah. Honestly,
I don't often drop that's so millennial line, but honest to God, that's what it feels like kids today.
Honestly, Ellen, come fetch your middle son. Okay, he needs some help right now. Moving on from the Bro line and the Hughes brothers to the Ruck Twins from Osoyoos, who have now combined, Blake, for more than 200 points with the Medicine Hat Tigers this season. Marcus ranks first. Liam ranks second in WHL scoring. There's a nice story in the province today about these two. And look at some of the guys they're leading, too. Cameron Schmidt, the ex-Vancouver Giant, a Dallas draft pick who's older and is having a sensational season. Hurlburt is a draft eligible in 2026. TJ Ginla, we just talked to Craig J. Button. TJ is his number one affiliated prospect across the National Hockey League. So there are some really good names on this list. And the Ruck Twins sitting there leading the league in scoring. From Osoyoos, and the province story talks about, they grew up Canucks fans. Blake, we're talking jammies, we're talking bed sheets, we're talking posters on the wall. They are ratcheting up, they're rocketing up draft rankings, I should say. I know Craig's going to promote them in his latest Craig's list. You're seeing that in some of the other lists as well. Liam tells the paper, obviously we'll see about the draft and how all the stuff plays out, but that would be a huge honor to play for the team that you grew up watching and going down to see play every now and then. It would be pretty cool, surreal moment. Marcus said, we shared a bedroom and our walls were Canucks colors. That was the closest team to us, and we grew up fans. And of course, we'll see how high up the draft rankings they go, because now some people have Marcus as a like middle of the first round type guy. But we've talked about this before, Blake. The Canucks sitting there with that Minnesota first rounder at 26, plus their indigenous second round pick, first pick in the second round, 33rd overall, some extra draft capital, both in the second round and beyond. There's a world where Rutherford and Alvin could get Berkey in and try and land both twins.
Absolutely. And here's the thing is that, and it's I think it's Liam that's the guy higher up, isn't it? Craig Button's got Liam at 22 and Marcus at 29.
Oh, okay.
So
I was under the impression that it was Marcus Liam's the goal scorer. Yes, I got that wrong. You're right. Liam the goal scorer, Marcus the setup guy.
So here's the thing. The Sedins have changed the calculus on this. Because we've seen brothers drafted on different teams all the time. And there was never sort of the assumption that, they've got so-and-so, so they got to go get so-and-so. It was always sort of in the back of their mind, it'd be a nice project to get, two Hughes brothers together, maybe three, all that sort of stuff. But the Sedin twins changed the calculus on twins. And they're not going to come along very often, obviously, at the high-end level. But having just seen the Sedin twins, I think the team that drafts the first one now opens themselves up to knowing they're going to have to pay a cost to get the second one. And everybody that drafts in the slots below them knows that. Like the minute you draft, presumably Liam, you have to know everybody below you is going to try to take advantage of you in your bid to try to find Marcus. And you'd have to believe that anybody that drafts Liam wants to draft Marcus too. I mean, you're going to have to,
I think you're going to have to overdraft Marcus, go out and acquire a pick that's probably higher than you would have him on your draft board, just to make sure, if you're so willing. I suppose you could sit there with your next pick and hope he falls to you, but you're right that the Twins have changed the calculus, not just in terms of draft day maneuvering and what a team would have to do and the price they're willing to pay to secure both twins, but as we talked about countless times, Blake, with Daniel and Henrik over their illustrious careers, and particularly towards the end, you were talking about the two human beings in the history of this sport that have played the most organized hockey together on the same line, and that is worth something, right? Like Tomlinson called it Sedinery. We saw things from two players that, because they were twins, had an ongoing advantage from the second they stepped on the ice as organized hockey players, that they were going to get to spend more time together learning each other's games and being able to execute plays. We often talked about a sixth sense, right? ESP. Than any other line mates, teammates out there, because of all the time you have together growing up on rinks. It's just, it cannot be replicated by anyone else. I suppose you can replicate it with brothers, but unless they're really close in age, at some point someone's playing in a different age group on a different team on a different line. Not the case with twins.
But let's go through the exercise. Let's go through the exercise just based on Craig Button's projection. Let's say you draft Liam Ruck at 22, whoever you are. And let's say you happen to have another late first round pick. Let's say you've got a 28th overall. I mean, that's not crazy to think, okay, well, that should line up perfectly for where they are. But if your team's 23 through 27, Matt, why wouldn't you extort Team A that has just taken Liam and say, listen, we've got Marcus right now. We're ready to draft Marcus, but make it worth our while. Like, you immediately open yourself up to being extorted, even if by rightful skill level, he should be drafted 10 slots down. But you're not doing your job if you're one of the interim teams in the middle there, if you're not extorting the first team.
Two teams to watch here. The Washington Capitals have as it stands, this will change, right? But
yeah.
In the here and now, the Washington Capitals have the 13th overall selection, and they have the 28th overall selection, the Indigenous Anaheim first-round pick.
It's a bit of a reach at 13, but
the St. Louis Blues have the 15th overall pick via the Detroit Red Wings and the trade of Justin. Was it Justin Falk? Yeah,
Falk.
I think so.
Yeah.
And St. Louis has the 31st overall selection, belonging to the Colorado Avalanche. So you have those two teams alongside the Canucks who may be positioned in terms of first-round draft picks to be able to pull this off. Should also shout San Jose here because they have their own and they have the Edmonton pick, and right now those are 16 and 17. So bada boom, bada bing, Blake. If they wanted to spend both picks on the Ruck Twins in the middle of the first round, they could do it without having to leave the draft podium and the draft stage.
Matt,
and bring them up
can
together.
you imagine if these guys hit and you've got them separated by 3 years from Macklin Celebrini? Can you imagine what that looks like in the when everybody's in their mid-20s? Oh my God, that could be interesting. Yeah, we'll see how it all lands.
They will be a huge fascination alongside McKenna, Stenberg, and of course who to take number 3 if you do happen to secure the 3rd overall pick. And as Blake always says, the Canucks are more likely to pick 3rd at 56% than they are to pick 1st or 2nd at a combined 43%. Anyways, we'll get into more of that and more draft talk. As mentioned earlier in the week when we had Craig Button on for the first time in a while, we are absolutely doing more and more on the draft and on prospects as we march along here through the end of the NHL season. Let's get to our menu today. It's brought to you by Greta, a fantastic spot to pregame or postgame. You've got the your mere steps from the stadium or the arena, and if you're planning an event, Greta is the spot for you. It's got a private riser in the back, surrounded by screens, surrounded by the arcade, an unpretentious menu of delicious street food. Try the tacos, absolutely adore them, and you can get going on that at gretabar.com. Get more information, book your event. Greta, 50 West Cordova. Let the games begin. We'll talk to Patrick Johnston here in a second, Canucks columnist for the Province and Postmedia, on Pettersson, on Rossi, on culture change and all the matters coming out, and on Jack Hughes, and on all the matters coming out of last night's game. And then an absolutely delightful conversation. I was so pleased we were able to get him on the show. Bill Wilms is retiring after 25 years as the Vancouver Giants color analyst on radio, but it has been a life lived and a career unlike any other for Bill Wilms. Now 83 years old, has been involved with hockey at a coaching, managerial, or broadcast level going back to 1970. So we're delighted to have Bill on the program today as he says farewell. 2 more games left. Giants are in Kamloops on Friday, then back home at the LEC on Sunday, where he'll sign off. One of our favorite guys, I think it's fair to say, Blake.
Oh, yeah.
In BC sports media. Later in the program, we'll talk Whitecaps. They're into Spokane to face the Sounders tonight. A nice feather in the cap for one of their players. The World Baseball Classic, its dramatic conclusion. Bad news for the Blue Jays here. Big week of lacrosse. The Vancouver Warriors have a big one on Friday. I'll talk some hoops as well with the NCAA tournament about to tip. Time now for our Bet365 bets of the day. And thank you to Yerke and everybody else who shouted me out yesterday. We're doing bets of the day yesterday, Blake, and I go, Rossi's on such a heater. I'm certainly going to bet him to get a point at plus 115. But you know what? Give me a 2-point plus night for Marco Rossi at plus 600. So we scored last night, and early too, in the first period, right? He had it in the first period. Marco Rossi did. So we're feeling good about ourselves. Gonna go on the NCAA basketball tournament because it gets going tomorrow. Get your brackets in. Wanted to bring this up. So look, like every sport, the data revolution has come to NCAA basketball. And there's a gentleman by the name of Ken Pomeroy, who's a data analyst who has been looking at NCAA basketball teams for a long time. And people have now picked up on the fact that every single national champion this century has finished in the top 21 of Ken Pom's offensive efficiency rating and the top 31 of Ken Pom's defensive efficiency rating. You've got 9 teams that qualify in both ratings this year. There they are: Duke, Michigan, Arizona, Florida, Houston, Iowa State, Illinois, Vanderbilt, Louisville. Blake, as you know, I'm a big Michigan loyalist. They're the number 2 choice to win the tournament at plus 350. But I'm also going to give you a long shot because I absolutely adore that Vanderbilt backcourt. They got a kid named Tanner who's going to be a first-round pick in the NBA. The other guy leads the nation in steals. Now, they're not the most experienced club, but sometimes too young, too dumb to know what you're doing.
That's what this tournament's about.
Exactly. We saw the Fab Five once upon a time, right? Plus 7,500 on Vanderbilt as my long shot with plus 350 on Michigan to win it all.
One thing we didn't discuss with the Vancouver Canucks optimism surrounding the 2 big players and a 3-2-1 record in the last 6 games. We didn't address, could they be too good down the stretch? I think the answer is probably no, that the cushion with the Flames and anybody else for that matter is big enough that, they would need to be close to the best team in the league, I think. But let's not leave anything to chance, shall we? The Flames are back off a pretty disastrous road trip, 1-4 on a 5-gamer. But they too are trying to turn the page. They've done a lot of nice things. I think they're trying to create a new culture with new leadership there. I think they'll exhale being at home. And the Blues have now won enough. The Blues shouldn't be much of a threat for 32nd in the league. Flames at home over the Blues, plus 105.
There are a few things more stressful than a close hockey game. One late back check could make all the difference between a chance at playoff glory or an early spring tea time. That's why Bet365, an official partner of the NHL, is offering 3-goal early payout. If the team you're riding goes up 3 goals at any point in the game, they'll pay your bet early. Hockey fans, you got enough to stress about. With 3-goal early payout, now your bets don't have to be one of them. Bet365. Download the app today. Must be 19 or older. Please play responsibly. Patrick Johnston coming up next. So Garrison Price from the historic Wall Center.
Red Tag Day deals are on. This is your warning. Now is your time to get into a 2026 Toyota Prius plug-in hybrid with Red Tag Day sales events on now at your Pacific Toyota dealers. Now through May, your chance to go take one for a test drive. Compare it. I encourage you, compare it all you want. You're going to come back to this newly redesigned Toyota Prius plug-in hybrid. 72 kilometers of electric range every morning when you wake up, passing by those ridiculously overpriced gas pumps for as long as you can take it, basically. You see Priuses on the road from yesteryear. You can have one of those as well. The Toyota Prius plug-in hybrid is on now. ShopToyota.ca.
Patrick Johnson is a columnist with the Province and Postmedia covering the Vancouver Canucks, and he joins us now.
Hi.
Good day.
How are we doing?
Good day. Very well. We're doing very, very well.
Good. Your culture cleaned up. You guys are happy. You know, you're all friends.
Exactly. We do a lot of work on culture in this show, let me tell you.
Brighten your day.
Yeah.
I wrote about it last week.
Patrick, Yeah, and we're gonna get to that. I'm gonna ask you about it because it seems to be showing true. But we have got to start with Elias Pettersson, and we're starting with Elias Pettersson for reasons that we don't normally start with on Elias Pettersson.
But it might come back to culture too. I mean, you could weave that in. It might all be part and parcel.
So 2-goal game, bumps the 20 game slump, breakthrough, back to Petey, or one off. What's your gut telling you after his first big game in a while?
I mean, that goal was great. And I mean, that goal doesn't happen with the pass from Marco Rossi. I'm not downplaying him actually shooting. Listen, he's been wanting to let that one go, but since Quinn Hughes has left, they haven't found a way to get that shot going again really quite properly because it requires someone coming from an angle that you can't get from a right shot at the point. Like Filip Hronek cannot deliver that pass because like there's physics. And so the pass that Rossi delivers was a remarkable play, and Pettersson nailed it, and that was great. And of course, the second goal, listen, it's good to be lucky to be good kind of moment, right? That said, yeah, he's been playing around the puck, and he's been doing lots of stuff. And in the end, as he essentially said, indicating that conversation he and I had just after the deadline there, or was that before the deadline? I can't even remember. Anyway, in the end, I think he knew that there's only one guy that can fix all this. And it was him. And so, listen, I think it's great that he figured his way. I think it's great that he looked good. But he's still got a long way to go. Like, you go to Money Puck and look at expected goals, and his personal expected goals puts him 6th on the team. Right, like the quality of shots he's been taking has not been at 5-on-5 has not been enough. So I'm not saying. I mean, we've seen this before, right? Like he's had moments where it's come back together.
Yep.
Even last year we saw this. But listen, in the run out to the season where you're looking for things to hold on to, I think this is definitely something that's hopeful, and I think hope overall is what we're looking at here, and that's what the rebuild or build or whatever you want to call it is about. Like they need to find things that will carry them forward, that will take them to the place they want to be in a couple seasons, which is back in the playoffs, looking like they're rounding into form into a proper contender.
There's a lot of things that we've asked Petey to improve upon in his game, and it's going to take a lot to make him into a better skater, obviously. But I think we all wondered, why can't you make it work on the power play? And to me, last night was great, but that's almost not 2 goals being baseline, but looking that dangerous on the power play should be baseline because it's a stagnant situation. We know the skill and the thinking of the game is not really the problem for Elias Pettersson. He should look good on a power play. So that to me is also a little bit of I'm a little exasperated watching last night as well. In that, of course you should be able to do that.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Like, as I said, partly it's because of the structure of the power play, but like in the end, find ways to do it. And that remains, I think, the criticism that we haven't seen enough of that guy who would figure out ways to do it. Basically all the avenues have been shut down. So go make a new road. What's the line from Andor? No, you have to build your way out. The way you go out is the way you came in, and like figure out your way yourself. Don't say I don't know what to do. Like figure it out. And this is a good sign. He's taking the puck to the net. You like that, Matt? I can see your face.
I am not prepared for lines from Star Wars spinoffs. Okay, if you want
great show,
if you want to bring me back to the original trilogy and lines from there, I can hang in the conversation. But if
you're missing out, you have to.
If we're going spinoff here, okay.
Andor, Matt.
I will attempt to watch. I will attempt to watch Andor.
It is in no way what you think.
Okay, that's on Disney. It's on Disney, right? Okay, I got you. No, but guys, bringing it back to culture. Is it possible that addition by subtraction and a different culture helps Elias here? Like, gone is his antagonist from last year, but now gone are others.
The deputies.
From exactly from that group. Your sense on whether or not new culture and addition by subtraction can unlock Elias.
Well, yeah. I mean, we talked about he needs a new place to play, and in many ways, this is a new place to play. Like the assemblage of characters that are here is now different. Obviously, there's still some good ones, and I find myself thinking a lot about Brock Boeser and how he has also taken on the public spokesman role. And letters on sweaters and that kind of thing. But maybe we can pause. I don't know if I'm going for that one yet. No, you're not wrong. Like the sort of way this room is going to run is now going to be different, inevitably. And who was I talking to last week? I've talked to Linus Karlsson a lot, right? I talked to Drew O'Connor a lot. The sort of mentality of it all is this is now a new room. This is a new way. We have to take control, if you will. We know we're here now, at least for the next, month until the end of the season. It's interesting hearing them think about how they all want to be here and they all want to be the solution, which is great, right? Like, that's ambition. That is actually ambition that we have not heard a lot. And that's good. No, obviously this team needs more. And so that means some guys are going to be going, but on the whole, yeah, it's pointing in a new direction. And so much of that, I think, in the end is Elias Pettersson is not going to be the center of your culture. That's just not who he is. In a certain level, he just needs to be left alone and let to do his thing and find his way again. Now, I hopefully he recognizes that in himself, because certainly I think for a long time he was the guy that he liked being the guy, that he recognized the sort of what being a prominent person on a team meant, and that obviously has not gone well for the last couple of years. So if this means that it's time for him to recognize he wants to try something different, which is just to be sort of left to his own devices and allowed to be who he is, then great. And if that means he thrives, then even better. In fact, that's what you want. So I think you may be onto something. We'll see. As I said, do it again. Yeah. But certainly what we saw last night. And the sort of at ease he felt, I think, after the game, because listen, it goes back to what I wrote about. This is a guy that was immensely frustrated and had no answers, and that was like upsetting to him, whether it made him angry or sad, one way or another. It was an upsetting issue. So
yeah. And as I said earlier, Peach, like, even if you're the biggest Elias Pettersson detractor, like, if you have empathy from a human level, that was a feel-good moment last night in the first period. I mean, that wasn't a monkey on his back. That was a gorilla. So
there's a reasonable debate, though, guys, that's not the biggest gorilla off the Canucks back you're going for. I think you can make a healthy argument here that the rise of Marco Rossi is just as important as the I think, because he's the center point he's the best roster player in the Quinn Hughes trade. They need him baseline a 50-point center. Baseline. Yeah. And %. Post acquisition, there were concerns there, Peach, a little bit. And he sort of gave us the right info by saying I wasn't right. I needed to get right. But, it was pretty easy for him to say that at that point. We didn't know how true that was. Thank God he's looked like this the last little while. He's now on a 60-point pace now for a season.
I have a little group chat with guys at J-Pat and Farhan and Woodley and Drance. And I joked last night, I can hear if only we'd had the Marco Rossi at the beginning of the season train warming up.
Yes, right. That's not a bad shout, to be honest.
No, but 12 now up to 12 points in 18 games and producing like the guy. I mean, the knock on him was like, well, he only had 60 points last year because he was playing with Kaprizov, and sure, okay, but he was playing with Kaprizov because they obviously felt he was good enough to play with Kaprizov. So it's like, what do you want? but still, he has to produce and he has to do it. And that pass, as I said last night, stood out. That was important. Matt, you're making a face. What did I say?
No, nothing. Carry right along.
Okay.
This is what I work with every day. What does that face from Matt mean?
Anyway,
I was going to save it for the end of the question, but since he interrupted himself,
no, I interrupted myself.
I'm just wondering, Blake, are you on this group chat? Have you got an invite? I'm not on the group chat either. Okay. Mike, are you on the group? Okay.
These are the Arena Drama Queen group chat, so we're not.
Right. That's right.
Yes.
This is the group chat where they sit there and they bitch about Canucks media policy and players. I got it. I have tried to root that out of my life this year. It's been several years.
Untrue. It's only happiness and light. Okay.
Oh, yes. I'm sure. Yes.
No, listen. Anyway, but I said this to the guys, and I just want to give credit to the chat. But
to your group chat.
Right. No, but
we'll source that.
You're absolutely right. The fact is that the way he's been playing has made a difference, right? Like, this is no longer even I don't know if it was ever really a one-line team, but this is no longer a one-line team. Like, there are options in this lineup already. Again, they need to add more. They need to be a better overall team, but there are a lot of the bones, I suppose, are starting to look okay, and Rossi's play has been important, and I had a really nice conversation with him post game on Saturday, before he went on Hockey Night in Canada, and sort of talked about the difference between that game and Thursday. Which, the Thursday game, they were so proud of for having come back and not quitting, and that not really being what happened on Saturday, that they lost their way. They gave up that late goal, lost their way in the second period, and it just, you fall behind. It's so hard to come back against anybody. And he was really honest. He was like, no, we all need to be recognized that we need to be better. The leaders need to be better. Like, we need to not get rattled, essentially, and that we have to have some confidence. And they played the Stanley Cup champions, who admittedly are not at their best and have been hurt and were a defensive nightmare. But they took what was given to them, right? Which hasn't been the case very often this year. And right. To me, going beyond the Rossi thing, that was the other big thing I took from last night. It was like there's a glimpse of a team that recognizes when to strike and when to take advantage, and they kept pressing, and they got a win for it. And again, this is going to be the idea that they're on some incredible run. 3-2-1 since the deadline, and that's good. And they've had some good games, but they've also had some bad games. And so the idea that there's sort of they turned the corner, I think overstates what they've done. But that said, last night's win was a sign of positivity and progress, and the kind of thing that they can point to.
It's not a turn of the corner. It's just a flash.
Yeah.
It's a flash. And we've been looking for give us a reason for hope,
That's
a new hope, another Star Wars reference, something to hold on to. And they've done that. So that's great. And I hope they go 0-5-1 in the next 6 to solidify their number one chances. But, at least there's this. We'll always have the week of March 15th, there will always be that.
Absolutely. There will always be the Ides of March, or whatever you want to say.
Oh, man.
Blake, I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Why are we on a? It's not May the 4th yet. We got to save these for May the 4th. Adam Foote's usage in this time, and how does this change the future of Adam Foote's? Let's not assume a 3-2-1 pace the rest of the way, but let's say this team plays 4-25 hockey the rest of the way, which would be a marked improvement, as scary as that is. Does that change the future of Adam Foote's next 18 months?
Well, I mean, the biggest thing for me, just as I get our money puck expected goals rolling differential going, is the truth is, what does this team look like defensively? And I think that's going to be the biggest question over his future is can the team, the players, as they have now sort of coalesced into this group, can they find their way together as a defensive group? And how much of that is about what Foote is and his staff is and isn't doing with them? Right. I think I've said here before, and I certainly say everywhere I can, is that a coach can do more to hurt the team than help. And certainly making choices like this is how we are going to defend is an example of of how a coach can hurt his team. What's the personnel I have? What are they capable of? And clearly, for much of this year, that has been a problem, and that comes back to the coaching staff. So that is the question for me in terms of his future is, how adaptable is he in terms of adjusting to the personnel he has? Obviously he talks a lot about having young defensemen. What are they? How is their progress coming along? Because that is the big question for everything. If they are going to have a bright, happy future, it comes down to how they're directed, and is their growth, is their development over the course of the next, what are we at? 17 games now, 16 games. I've lost track.
15 remaining. 15.
I can't even count. Over the course of the next 15 games, what do we see here from this group, and would a new coach alleviate some of those problems?
I want to hit on two more quick questions because I know you want a word or two about Bill Wilms, so we got coming up. We got to ask you the poll question back on Elias here, but do these final 16 games matter, inclusive of last night, to his trade value? We've been having that debate on the show this
and
week.
One of the options
whether
is
the die is all is the die already cast here, or do you think there's a way for him to improve his trade value with a strong finish to the season, and even to the point where the Canucks should consider keeping him?
I'm going to go with yes. I mean, I would think about considering not trading him, but I'm going to go with yes, because I think you fundamentally have to. You cannot leave any stone unturned. And I think if he continues on like this, then yes, that absolutely is a strong sign that there's a player that all it was environment, and that other teams will say, yes, we think we have a good environment for a guy like this. Right. So yes, stronger play will make a difference in terms of his trade value. Now, I think that is a different question from whether in the end you do inevitably trade him. But certainly I don't think you can shy away from the idea. A future poll question you could think about is Endor the forest moon, or is Endor the planet?
Okay. I was going to say, so long as Elias knows do or do not, there is no try, and so long as this last 2-goal game is not a trap.
So exciting.
Nerds. We're all nerds.
So nerd. What was your first inclination when you heard Jack Hughes whine about his golden puck being at the Hockey Hall of Fame? Are we learning a thing or two? I mean, Quinn is not Jack. We got to distinguish between them.
Now, I know,
but holy entitlements, Hughes brother.
I'm just like, dude, there's a reason why there's a Hall of Fame. That was my first instinct, right? But the other thing was, listen, and there are people like, listen, his puck, fine, fair, but I think that's contingent on you reading to the end of Wish's story, which is that Jack Hughes hadn't even called the Hall of Fame. He was just, I want to give it to my dad. What if your dad wants the Hall of
Unbelievable.
Fame?
His dad's a collector. It's like he needs to bring trophy to daddy. Like, Anyway, I think I was left scratching my head. I was like, what?
But took no agency of his own to actually make an inquiry. Wanted to vent.
Put in your bathroom and stare at it. Like, okay. I mean, I get having things.
But the key thing, it's not his puck. No. You do not own the puck. The IIHF and the IOC put on the event. It is their puck. Of course it goes to the Hall of Fame, because that is the single greatest shrine to this sport the world over. Yeah.
I think
this isn't hard, Jack.
Give your dad the golden stick.
Or the jersey, something that does belong to you, for God's sakes.
Anyway, the whole thing made me laugh when you realize at the end he hasn't even called them. Hey, can I borrow it? Yeah. Like, have some fun. But this comes back to the thing I was saying in general. And I think, we need to be careful here because, of course, this is a guy who is showing personality. I want them to show personality, but I also want them to have fun and not be jerks. Yeah. And this is being a jerk.
Yeah, for sure. Lastly, we got Bill Wilms coming up, his final broadcast, 25 years on the call with the Vancouver Giants as color man. You want a word or two on Billy?
They're just, I mean, I don't know Bill that well, but just sort of the sort of representation of an era of hockey that he is. And I remember, early on when I was doing this, I think it was still Canucks Army, and I'd show up to the Giants, and the Giants put on a free meal, and it was Nando's. And so guys like Cam Sharon and Dmitry Filipovich and we called it the blog bus. We'd go out there and watch some Giants hockey, and Blake and Bill would be there. And you just sort of recognize what kind of a character Bill was, and just sort of a man of his time, if you will. And I just the way he talks, there's this old Canadian accent that you just don't hear much anymore. And I just remember sitting there thinking, man, this is hockey. Like just the pregame meal, yes. And this is the sort of the real kind of not caricature, but it's the sort of image we all have of guys standing around the rink and it's cold and keeping your hands in your pockets and just enjoying the game and what a great story he is, because a guy that sort of, I don't know, fell into it, but just kind of became this broadcaster kind of, I think, out of nowhere by his own telling, and always ready to have a thought. And like you did, the thing about guys like him that's great is that you don't have to agree with them, but in the end you're like, oh, that's fair enough, right? Like I'll buy that. And that's what we need more of. And so I hope people pick up his legacy and carry on, because as we know, covering hockey is hard. And it's not for the faint of heart, and it's also not for a financially successful choice a lot of the time. But you gotta love it, and he clearly loved it. And you've always that has always come through. Anytime I ever heard him talk,
absolutely, 100%. Patrick, thank you for this. Much obliged. And if I'm not mistaken, you're in with me at one point next week. So looking forward to that.
Very exciting. Yes, I think next Wednesday. So there we go.
So Garrison Price from the historic Wall Center.
And Pizza has come up with something that maybe Nassau would be jealous of. They've reinvented the pizza here, Matt. Mm-hmm. It's the Volcano Dipper. New at Pizza, the Volcano Dipper is right in the center of the pie. You can pull, rip, dip, and your slice right into the molten volcano center that's filled with famous creamy garlic sauce. This is the perfect dip for creamy garlic lovers. Check it out. Pull, rip, dip into the Volcano Dipper on now, only at Pizza.
Well, our next guest has been a friend to Blake and I for 2 decades since we got into media here in Vancouver. He is celebrating 25 years on the Vancouver Giants radio broadcast as the esteemed color analyst. And he's retiring this week after a splendid career. It is our distinct pleasure to welcome Mr. Bill Wilms back to the program. How are you, Billy? You look well.
I feel good, too. And I just want to rush out and buy that product you just advertised. But it's awesome, guys. I'm just so thrilled to be on with you guys. Thanks for having me.
You're more than welcome.
The most important thing for you, I know, is the golf game. How is the golf game going right now?
It's actually not bad. I've just got to make sure I get to play a shorter golf course. If I could play something around 5,900 yards, I can satisfy myself, no question.
Yeah.
Standards are high and always will be, but more than anything, guys, I play for, keep moving. I don't want to let the old man in, so I'm going to keep moving on the golf course.
When I think of people who need more time to golf to improve, Billy, you might be at the bottom of the list, actually. Are we shooting our age still at 83?
Yeah, I got to be honest with you. My target is now quite a bit under. I can hit when I was 81, I shot 71 at some point that year. And when I was 82, I hit 72. And at 83, I hope this summer I can hit 73 somewhere on a regular course. But, you know, I did shoot my age when I was 64, and it was 63 at McCleary. And I was talking to Dick Zokel one time about, I had breakfast with him. We had talking about hole-in-ones and shooting your age. And that was what struck him most, never mind the hole-in-ones. So, yeah, but you know what, guys? It's going to end. I mean, at some point, I'm going to be able to hear my ball line.
It's not ending anytime soon. I've told this story. I've told this story before, but a couple of years ago, 2-3 years ago, I went to the Golf Expo out at Abbotsford, and I was touring around one of the displays. A young man was helping me, and he goes, "You're Sakaris, right?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "I'm Bill Wilms' grandson." I went, "Oh my goodness, Bill Wilms' grandson at a golf expo. Yeah, I guess that tracks." And so I'm talking with him, and I say, "So have you beat Grandpa yet?" He went, "Are you kidding me?" He goes, "I haven't beat him. My uncles haven't beat him. Nobody in the Wilms family has beat him yet." So keep on keeping on, Billy. You're an inspiration. We need a Super Seniors tour for you to go on out there and win some prize money still if you're shooting 73.
Well, I could tell you, they're kicking me now. I got no chance. They're hitting it almost 80 yards longer now. They're playing better. They're bigger. They're older. Yeah, no, he told me about that, man. That meant a lot to him. But yeah, to play with my grandsons is a special. I have a 30-year-old and a 31-year-old, and it's a lot of fun.
Well, we have your tweet here from January, Billy, when you announced that this would be your final year after 25 years on the Vancouver Giants broadcast. We'll bring up the rationale, but you tell us, what made you decide that this would be the season where you said goodbye?
Well, my wife actually kept pushing me out the door to keep doing this. You know, she's been an incredible supporter, and she knew it was good for me. I knew it was good for me. And it got to the point where 25 was just the right number. I didn't want to wear out my welcome either. And I thought, you know, 26 didn't feel right. And I didn't want it ever to kind of get to the point where, you know, with company that stays too long, you say, here's your coat, what's your rush? I wanted to make sure that it was the right time, and I can't tell you how right it feels and how blessed. This has been such a good thing for me, you know, in so many ways, and I've been very thankful I've been able to do it. But when she said to me one night, "Do you think maybe we can go to Palm Springs for a month instead of a week sometime? Why don't we make this the last year?" And it all made sense.
That's a great idea. First, let me tell you face to face, Bill, that working with you way back when was a distinct pleasure. And it was the first time that I got daily play-by-play reps, you know, regular play-by-play reps, not daily. And your professionalism really helped me figure out what it meant to be in the booth and what it was supposed to look like. And you were a great right-hand man for a couple of seasons there that I was doing Giants games. So thank you for that. And it was so much fun. You took me in, you were a smiling face, even though I was a newbie. And you've dealt with a lot of newbies. I mean, the churn generally at the WHL level is pretty high. And here you are, the veteran, and you took all the young bucks under your wing every single time, and we're a pro about that. And, you know, good on you, because, you know, there can be some reverse ageism there sometimes where, you know, the veteran can look down on the green guys, and you never did that. And that takes a lot. What led you to be so accepting of these new guys coming in every few years?
It was fun. It was actually enjoyable. I had a lot of respect for what you, Blake, were able to do, what you play-by-play guys do. And, you know, I took the old Bob Cole theory that when the puck's moving, the play-by-play's talking, and when the puck's not moving, the color guy's talking. And each and every one of the guys always, it worked. It just worked so well that I kind of felt that, you know what, if I'm working with a play-by-play guy, let's communicate during the broadcast. In other words, I use the word tagging. You know, you haven't got a lot of control as a play-by-play guy over what you're calling, because you got to call what's happening on the ice. I have freedom to go somewhere when the puck stops. And for play-by-play guy to tag the color commentator so that the listener says, hey, he heard him. He listened. They're communicating. That meant the world to me. And I've shared the story before with Brendan Batchelor, the very first game he did with the Canucks. It was a preseason game, albeit, but Corey Hirsch made a comment and Batch tagged it right away. Just put a little sentence or half a sentence. I mean, he just indicated that he had listened and heard what Corey had said. And I texted him right during the game. As soon as I heard it, I said, Batch, great tag. He texted me back. I don't know it was during play-by-play, but he did. And I thought, that communication was the fun. So whether it was Batchelor or whether it was, it just was fun. That aspect of broadcasting made it a whole lot of fun. You calling the play so accurately and me in some small way being able to add something when the puck wasn't moving, that relationship meant so much to me. And it was fun to, I don't know, I don't want to say teach guys that, but to bring that to their attention and say, hey, that's what works.
Billy, I still listen on Friday nights, Sunday afternoons as I'm driving around town, and it does not sound like you have lost your enthusiasm, your passion, your joy for calling hockey games one iota.
No, I can tell you the truth. I feel that way. Ron Toigo always let me travel by car. And when I had to fly to the prairies or wherever, even to Prince George, he made that happen. I couldn't work for a better ownership group. But preparation was a lot of fun for me, believe it or not, sitting and preparing for a game so that I had stuff that maybe a tenth of it might be used in a game, but you got to over prepare. I always think the travel by car, I did a game just 2 nights ago, whatever it was in Seattle. And I found that a little bit of a, and that's maybe the most thing that is tough is not, having to move around in a car. And although you travel at your own speed, you travel with your own brakes. That was always very, very fun. But Matt, thank you for that. I feel if I jumped in tonight and did a game, or next year if I did a game, which I won't, obviously, I think the passion would still be there. It's been so good for me.
That there are some legendary trips with Bill Wilms in the car, if I'm not mistaken, right, Blake?
Yes, absolutely. We did one to Kamloops. I remember we sorted out the entire world. I think by the end of that trip, it was great. When did you miss coaching? What's that?
Well, we had a truck we rented, you and I, to go to Kamloops, didn't we?
Look at this memory, steel trap. Absolutely. It's exactly, and it was a kind of a snowy trip, if I remember as well. So we were lucky we had it.
Yeah, no more snowy Coquehalas for Bill Wilms, okay? You've put in your miles on that highway, getting to Kamloops and all the other WHL stops.
But sorry,
but get into you left the coaching ranks and being involved in organizations. Did you ever miss that when you jumped into the booth, or did you just say, no, this is my new chapter?
Well, that's a good question. I was a school teacher for what was it, from 70 to 90 when we moved to BC while I was coaching junior A hockey. I don't mean to say this disparagingly, but I kind of taught school in my spare time. And it all worked out well. And that teaching aspect really intrigued me because I used video, if you will, albeit what they call it, the Super 8 cameras back when I was coaching. And the teaching aspect and the talking about it was probably a combination of being a coach and teaching. And I got the opportunity. And honestly, guys, when it really, we got lucky in 2005 when the NHL was on strike and we started with Shaw. We had free reign of television. We did a game in Vancouver or in Medicine Hat, Game 7, the Western Hockey League Final in 2007. We had 406,000 viewers in Vancouver. That was unheard of, but that was because there was no NHL, and that just cemented that. I mean, that was early. That was only 4 years into my career, and that cemented my whole desire. This is what I wanted to do.
You know, it's funny, Billy, you talk about the preparation, because my favorite parts of your broadcast, as good as the play-by-play is, but the pregame, the postgame, and the intermission, when I hear Billy say, let me check, I've got it here in my notes. I loved the way you presented your notebook to the listening audience, Bill. It seemed like we were listening, taking in the game in your living room, with you filling in the gaps of what we may have missed with your expert eye.
Yeah, that's very kind. I mean, those are the accolades that you never think of at all when you're working. You know, you just, this is what I do. And I mean, I'm humbled by that. That's, I guess, the way it should be. It's the way I would have hoped it would be. And, you know, to say that is great. I felt very relaxed. I got to be honest with you. I was more nervous trying to get on this show with you guys today than I was anytime broadcast. My hands were shaking with that phone in my hand. I couldn't get this thing to work. Don't get old.
Have you had a chat with Dan Russell recently about the end of the line here?
No, he's in Thailand. We do connect from time to time. And you know what? This is the other thing. I'm glad you brought that up. I never went to broadcast school. I never applied for a job. It's like the good Lord said, here, I'm going to hand it to you. And Dan was a 14-year-old. He was our first babysitter, to be honest with you. He lived across the street from us in Richmond. And he'd come along to games with me when I was coaching and do the play-by-play into a tape recorder. And then he said to me one day, would you like to, I don't know if you guys knew a guy, Bill Courage. I didn't really. I knew the name, but he was,
sure.
He was doing Bruins games, newest Bruins games as Dan's color guy. And I guess all of a sudden he asked me to do it. And I thought, okay, absolutely. And here we are, 30 plus years later. And I do have to say, if I didn't know him, I got no idea. I no clue how I would have ever got in. Even coaching, I answered an ad in the paper, and I got a job in junior hockey. So, I mean, I've been very blessed. But, we keep in touch. No question. He'll send me videos, and I never tell him golf videos, and I never tell him I've seen every one of them he sent me, but that's okay.
Bill, what do you make of the send-off here? Because it's not just confined to the Vancouver Giants and the LEC. They celebrated you in Kelowna last week, in Seattle the other night. You got Kamloops coming up on Friday. What do you make of the way the entire Western League has celebrating you and your 25 years?
Overwhelming, like really, really overwhelming. Guys, there isn't a way in the world I saw that coming. I know when I tweeted that it was going to be my last year, I know that some of the likes, some of the comments came even then from people I had no clue that they would respond. The media in Vancouver, I don't know. It's so humbling. It's hard to even it's really hard for me to accept, guys. The people. I mean, I was just a play-by-play guy with a Vancouver, junior hockey team. I knew I was fortunate. I knew that the Canuck color commentator was the #1 job in the Lower Mainland, if you're talking that, and obviously BC line color guys and so on and so forth. But I knew I had a pretty good job, but I had no clue. Seriously, guys, I had no that this was going to happen. The recognition. I know my family was at the game the other night, and when you're an athlete, I mean, there are a lot of pro football players and pro hockey players. Their kids kind of know their dad does this for a living, and they don't really know what it all encompasses. And there was probably a part of my family there the other night at the game in the suite that the magnitude of it all was overwhelming to them. They had never thought that was even their dad or their, I mean, my wife, yeah, but my grandkids, no, we even had our great granddaughter in the suite. She's 1 year old. Her birthday was the same night as the recognition. But no, media guys, I'll take it to my grave that I never, ever expected it. Trust me.
Well, my friend, you got a couple of games left, and while Sunday's game, of course, the job is to call the game between the Giants and the Blazers, but there's going to be a time at the end of that broadcast, Bill, and it's time to sign off. Are you prepared for the moment? Do you have something you know you're going to say? Tell me about what you plan on Sunday for a final farewell to the audience.
I don't, that is a good question. I've thought about it. I know that coaching staff wants me to read the starting lineup that night for the team. That's pretty cool. No, didn't see that coming. Yeah, walking out of the building is going to be reflective, but I'm ready. I'm ready to move on. I'll tell you, I mean, some of the, the tributes, that I've received, and obviously Blake, you included, that's over the top for me. That's got me more emotional than anything. Taking that headset off and walking out the building. I'll never ever. I mean, what was said on those tributes and what was played on the screen, that did it. I mean, I'm that is the emotion that has overwhelmed me, and I can't imagine. I doubt it if it'll be worse for me. It might be. I don't know, but I'm ready. I'm ready to say, thank you guys very much. Sign off, and away we go.
Well, I don't know if you're a better character of a man versus a color analyst, but you're 10 out of 10 in both categories in my books, Bill.
You sure are, Bill.
You deserve it. You deserve to walk away from that arena and know that you put it all into there and have no regrets. So congratulations.
Yeah, you deserve all these festivities, my friend. Make sure Nathan Cantor has the Kleenex ready Sunday. If not for you, then for everybody else around you who is going to miss hearing you on Giants broadcasts. We can't thank you enough for the time here today, Bill. Congratulations on a splendid career.
Thank you, guys. I can't thank you enough for having me on. This was very, very special. Thank you.
So here's some price from the historic Wall Center and the Pacific Toyota Dealer Studio, built by Arbor Lee. Game night turns into a game weekend at Wall Center. From puck drop to last call, everything you need right outside the door. Stay where the fans stay. wallcenter.com. Whitecaps into Spokane tonight. Yes, that's right, Spokane, for leg 2, round 2 of the CONCACAF Champions Cup tie with the Seattle Sounders. Vancouver trails 3 buzz on the aggregate. The game has been moved to One Spokane Stadium, with Lumen Field undergoing World Cup conversion. And if the Whitecaps were to come back in this tie and advance, they would face the winner of the FC Cincinnati Tigres matchup in the quarterfinals. Of course, they made it to the final of this tournament last year, losing to Mexico's Cruz Azul. They were talking tough. Yeah, I mean, you tell me, Blake. They were talking tough after the loss and after the huge victory on the weekend that, they're not going to just lay down. They're going to be competitive here. But you tell me, what's the wise move with a very big one on Saturday? Because the San Jose Earthquakes are one of those teams that has started well in the West. You want to get that one.
I'm of a million minds here. That march to the Champions Cup last year was so much fun. Like I remember when they scored those improbable victories, both home and away in Miami, and then it was a really fun run. But it also clogs up the schedule a lot, and so I think the Whitecaps go in there with a no lose scenario. Either you have an incredible first half, and I'll get to that in a second. Either you have an incredible first half and create a comeback scenario and a story for the ages, or you lose and you don't have this thing clogging up your schedule anymore. Yep. So it's one of the two. And so what I would do here, Matt, if I'm Jesper Sorensen, is I would put a pretty darn good foot forward in the opening half. And if you've got 1 or 2 goals on the board, okay, you keep yourself in it and you go for it in the second half.
Yep.
If you've got zero or 1 goal, I think you have to have a talk with your staff. Are we looking good? Like, are we dominating and about to have? If you got 1 goal and you're dominating, yes, okay, you keep going. if you got one lucky counter goal and it's still 3-1 and you're not looking, abandon ship. Like it's you've got other fish to fry. You got this amazing role in MLS, so it's going to be interesting to see. That's just Blake talking. We'll see what.
Yeah,
what the
no,
staff
I
thinks,
hear your mouth, and I think you're right.
Yeah.
I mean, Jeff and I were talking yesterday. I don't think your fans value the early rounds of this tournament. They certainly valued it last year when you got to the semis versus Messi in Miami, and then, of course, in the final when there was a trophy at stake. Yeah. But I'm not sure that these early round games, and this is still second round, and quarterfinals is still kind of early as well, matter to your fans. And they just played so much soccer last year, Blake. And, of course, are hoping to play a ton of soccer again this year as well. So I'm with you in terms of...
You're talking about the two opponents. Okay, let's say they have the storybook win. It looks like Cincinnati's going to get through. I don't know that you can sell Cincinnati as well as you could sell Tigres. Tigres has been here a ton. No, the Whitecaps, the most frequent exotic opponent the Whitecaps have faced in their MLS existence is Tigres, and they've always kind of beaten up on the Whitecaps. But so I think you could paint that as a good rivalry revenge sort of series in the quarterfinal if it were. But Tigres is in the same boat as the Whitecaps. They're down 3 goals going into the second leg, so it doesn't look likely to beat Tigres, unfortunately.
And how about this story from the Whitecaps camp? Canadian-Tunisian forward Rayan Aloumi has been called by Tunisia to face Canada and Haiti in Toronto later this month in the international window. Now, Aloumi played for Canada in a Tier 2 friendly versus Guatemala back in January, but it's a friendly, so not cap tied. Sounds like there's a little bit of competition for the Whitecap striker services here between a couple countries, including Canada.
Everybody sees the potential that he's got, and he hasn't done anything so far this season really, but the way he moves on the pitch, it looks like a dangerous striker. I do think he's an interesting developmental project here for both countries apparently, and it's going to be a race to get into a tournament and use this kid. I don't think he's likely to be called to the World Cup. But it's on the other side of the World Cup, as soon as you can get into a competitive match and cap tie Rayan Aloumi, I think you got to do that for Canada.
Yep, born in Edmonton to Tunisian parents, so dual national there. Venezuela upsets USA 3-2 in the final of the WBC. You see, I put it down VEN as opposed to VAN. My shorthand for Vancouver's VAN. We use it a lot. And a celebration for the ages from the Venezuelans. Now, if you follow world affairs, just 2 months ago, the United States staged a military strike in Venezuela, captured the president, Nicolas Maduro, and took him and his wife to New York City to face drug charges. So this matchup was loaded with geopolitics besides just the David and Goliath storyline on the diamond. This pleased me very much. Miguel Cabrera, the great Venezuelan player, of course. He was the only player to play in the first 5 incarnations of the World Baseball Classic. He's retired now. He was a coach with the Venezuelan side and was in absolute tears celebrating last night alongside his countrymen and their fans. Look, there was a little bit of controversy in this regard, and we've talked about the World Baseball Classic, that it takes place in March means that arms are not fully ready in season form. You've got pitch counts in the opening round. Not every pitcher is available in every scenario where you would otherwise want them pitching. Right. Mark DeRosa, the U.S. skipper, when asked about not using San Diego Padres closer Mason Miller, he of the 102-mile-an-hour fastball, said, quote, "Honoring the Padres, had we taken the lead, he was coming in, but I wasn't going to bring him in a tie game." The same question came to the Venezuelan skipper, and their manager, Omar Lopez, said he got text messages from 3 organizations in the morning asking him to not use pitchers he used last night. Bottom line, Omar Lopez isn't auditioning for any Major League Baseball jobs. He chose glory for Venezuela, and he succeeded.
He went all in, and he probably made the calculation, will they prevent these players from playing for Venezuela in the next World Baseball Classic? Yeah, they very well might. But we're not in the final yet of that World Baseball Classic. We're in the final of this one, and I'm going to go all in, put all the chips in the middle, and try to win this game. I don't blame him in the least.
No,
it is a small worry for this tournament, and we've talked about this, and
it is.
Hey, I think both of us thought this was a great tournament.
Indeed.
But it is the last shoe to drop in this tournament. Nobody was putting forth any guardrails on Canada at the Olympics in hockey. And for this tournament to be as honest and have the integrity of that, the guardrails need to be off. And I don't know how you do that. I don't know where you put it in the season where Major League Baseball teams take off the guardrails.
I know there's been some discussion about, do we play this tournament mid-season when everybody's in form? It's a very long season. It's a very short All-Star break. Will you get the buy-in from all the players to spend their All-Star break playing in this tournament if that's what you decide? I'm just for expanding the pitching staffs, Blake. Just let them bring 20 pitchers, for heaven's sakes.
Yes. Yes.
So nobody is overtly taxed. Okay, it's going to look different than your typical dugout or bullpen with all those guys there. And some might not get used, and I can understand, you bring a player and not use them sort of thing, but just increase the pitching staffs and see if that helps next time. Yeah. The American team was getting savaged on social media by their own fans last night for the way they comported themselves throughout this tournament, fully out of step with the vibe, the spirit of the event, the other countries, the festive fans. I mean, look at this tweet from a fan in San Francisco. Jackass catcher doesn't dap up his teammates because he wants to act so tough. Manager not knowing the seating rules. One of the best players says the tournament stinks. Best hitter goes hitless the entire tournament. Entire team cosplays like they are war veterans. You are not. The speech from that Delta Force guy. I mean, It was all a little bit, concludes, just a sad bunch of dudes. Hope we can do better the next go-around. No, it's true. They were not getting any respect. They arrived in the jerseys of the USA gold medal winning men's hockey team. Even that, Blake, taking a page from Canada earlier in the tournament, taking a page from Vladdy Guerrero in the World Series last year. That even wasn't original Team USA. Incidentally, Aaron Judge wore Austin Matthews' jersey to the ballpark. He went 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts. We'll let you all decide whether that's coincidence or not. And bad news from Blue Jays camp. Jose Barrios diagnosed with a stress fracture in his right throwing elbow.
Oh, man.
He says he's going to resume throwing in a few days. He will not be ready for the start of the season. Of course, they have slow played Trey Savage and Shane Bieber. So this is going to heap more pressure on the starters who are available out of the gate. Kevin Gossman, the newcomer, Dylan Cease, the newcomer from the Korean League, Cody Ponce. And, of course, the ageless wonder, Max Scherzer, baby. Yeah. Gonna need you.
He probably thought he was going to get slow played in April. And they're like, no, we need you, old man.
Yeah, no. Max, you'll be starting first week of April. That's right. Vancouver Warriors. They got a big win on the weekend down in Georgia. They're back home Friday to face Ottawa with a St. Paddy's Day theme at Rogers Arena. They are 10-4, all alone in second place of the NLL, 1 game behind Saskatchewan for first place. They could forge a top-of-table tie with a win and a Saskatchewan loss in Toronto on Friday. They'll know the result of that Rush Rock game when they get going with later in the day, later in the evening on Friday. 4 games remaining in Vancouver's season. 3 of them are at Rogers Arena at home. Last year's NLL finalist, well positioned to take the next step, maybe even win a trophy in the National Lacrosse League. It's getting exciting for the Warriors, their fans.
I would love to see like the semifinal and a final to a champion. Like, I think the city would really buy in. I think you could get 18,000 in there.
Well, they bought in last year at the end of the year, right? Like when the Warriors were going gangbusters at the end of the year, we saw the city turn out. I'm looking at that April 10th game. I'm going to try and make that April 10th game a couple of Fridays from now because I have heard nothing but great reviews about the atmosphere and the entertainment value of a night at the Warriors game. So good on them. They finally have a managerial. They finally have the leadership that has forged a winner here, and they're getting results, and they're switching people on to lacrosse. Good on them. A record 36 Canadian men are participating in the NCAA Division I basketball tournament, a.k.a. March Madness, which, well, the play-in games began yesterday. The real McCoy begins tomorrow. 36 Canadian kids, Blake, only one British Columbia. This tweet says 32 because there's a few hometowns and birthplaces that don't align, but they are Canadian kids. There's only one player from BC, a guard by the name of Max Nodlovo Fraser. He's at Long Island University. He's from North Van, attended West Van Secondary, Western Canada Prep Academy. He's only a freshman. He doesn't play a whole lot. He's coached by former NBA superstar Rod Strickland. Star, not superstar. Rod Strickland with LIU. The problem for Long Island University, they play number 1 seed Arizona on Friday, the second overall seed in the tournament after Duke.
But hey, that carries with it its own experience, right? You're playing, and not the Cinderella is going to win in this case. I highly doubt it. But just to be involved in that, like, I mean, that's like FA Cup sort of stuff.
Years from now, they'll be watching an NBA game and say, yeah, I played against that guy. I played against that guy. I played against that guy in college. And sticking with hoops, this is terrible. Canada's women's national team has failed to qualify for the World Cup later this year in Berlin. Canada lost to Australia in its final game at the qualification tournament in Turkey this week. They went 2-3 in pool play, and that wasn't enough to advance. And so people are wondering, is this the sort of end of an era of the Kia Nurse era of the Canadian women's national team? She's 30 years old. She's been a leader on that team for some time. Kayla Alexander played tremendously in the game against Australia, but it wasn't enough. And that is a program that should be qualifying for World Cups. I mean, it wasn't that long ago. The Canadian women's basketball team was
both
pretty
those
decent.
Should be like,
yeah. I mean,
how is it that Australia and Canada are playing off? Both those countries should be in the tournament.
Well, it was round robin. Yeah, no, I know. The qualification. Yeah, so they played 5 games, and they had some tough. They lost to Turkey earlier in the tournament, and that was a surprise. Yeah. And sad news from the BC Lions, who are mourning the passing of former defensive lineman and linebacker Tom Brown, one of the finest defensive players in the history of the club. He passed last week at age 89. He was a 3-time CFL All-Star, twice the CFL's most outstanding lineman, and a member of BC's first Grey Cup championship team in 1964. Charter member of the BC Lions Wall of Fame, inductee to the Canadian Football Hall of Fame in 1984, the BC Sports Hall of Fame in 1986. And Tom goes back to an era, Blake, when the CFL was on pretty much equal footing with the NFL and then AFL. You'll remember this is before the merger of those two leagues. The Lions actually outbid the Baltimore Colts for his services in 1961. He was also the second overall pick in the AFL draft to the New York Titans. So he had 2 routes of American professional football, Colts or Titans. He decided to come play for the BC Lions, played 7 seasons up here. I know. I mean, it's just... That happened into the early 70s. Yeah, into the early 70s, you could find examples of that. Guys choosing the CFL because the money was equitable and for whatever other reason. I guess there was Rocket Ishmael as well, but it happened routinely into the early 70s. And Brown was a decorated college player. I mean, he's still known as one of the greatest to ever play at the University of Minnesota. He won the Outland Trophy. That's the top collegiate lineman, a very prestigious award. They still give it out today. I mean, it reads like a who's who of the Hall of Fame. And he was inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame in 2003. So anyways, we join with the Lions their fans, and, of course, the friends and family of Tom Brown. May he rest easy. Results of yesterday's poll question, and I want your take on this as well, Blake. Does Nils Hoglander have a future with the Canucks? Yes or no? What did the people say?
The people. What did the people say? The people still want to believe. They said yes.
They said no. 70%.
Really?
What do you say?
70%, really?
He's got the 3 year. He's on the first of the 3 year contract, right? At $3 million, and needless to say, they have like some opportunity runway here for him still.
I think you have to try to reimagine him as a bottom six guy, maybe even potentially as a fourth line guy. Before people bristle at $3 million for a fourth line guy, we're kind of into that territory almost, where that's not a crazy overpay anymore for a fourth line player. He would be a highly paid fourth line player, but not like mind-blowingly overpaid for a fourth line player. So I think we saw last night some giddy up and some grinding. And while their lines metrics were not very good, there is still some utility there. And this has been missing as many games as he did. I think you could just say, okay, we're going to throw out a lot of this, what we saw here, and pick and choose what we like from what we saw, and still see that there was an NHL player there. It's just not the NHL player we thought he was going to be necessarily. He looked like he was tracking to an 18 to 22 goal scorer every year. That looked like what he was going to be. I guess he's not that, and you should be happy if you get 12 goals out of him potentially. But yeah, I'm willing to see the first half of next year and see what he's got.
A lot of people in the comments pinning the tail on the coach. Trevor voted yes, assuming Foote is fired this offseason. Saw a fair bit of that. James, not as long as Foote is coaching. Magic's and not with Foote around. Al says if they were smart, yes, he should. And Canucks Girl says no, he's the third liner at best, and we got a lot of those. Yes, second sea of Granlands here. Errors and omissions from yesterday's program and beyond. We did mention this in program with Jeff yesterday, but I wanted to get it in this segment as well. There seems to be a notion out there on Canucks social media, amongst Canucks social media folks talking about the Canucks, that it is just the Sedin twins, Tyler Myers, Trevor Linden, who have celebrated 1,000 games in a Canucks jersey. No, it's a more extensive list than that. Marcus Naslund, Pitt Martin, going way back, Ryan Walter, Dave Babbage, all celebrated their 1,000th NHL game in a Canucks sweater as well. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Appreciate you spending some time connecting with the program. Please do subscribe to all our assorted channels, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. Follow on social. That's X, Insta, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Blue Sky. Live on many of those platforms, noon Pacific time weekdays. And, of course, please do support the community sponsors you hear us talking about. Keep it local.